discipline. I went from being a 100-pound weakling to being a 250-pound weakling.
You forgot the exercise.
Yeah. That's what it was. Yeah, I guess I did forget the exercise part of it. Yeah. We're going to kick off the open mic.
I don't know if you're like me, but usually it's just one thing that causes a poem to come. A friend of mine had been caught in a lie, a straight up lie. And when she was challenged with it, this poem came. A Guilty Heart. When a guilty heart sings, it is untrue to itself and wants to believe its own lies. And it makes a certain sound, sometimes soft, that is shrill, but not yet piercing. That is some parts indignation and getting caught after the act anyway. Is a dash of damn, a pinch of finely granulated guilt that loses itself easily in the mixture. When a guilty heart sings, its song is short and sharp and painful and hurts and confounds and beguiles all but those who know firsthand what a guilty heart is. Stolen. She loves me. She loves me not. She calls me what she wants. She begs me to stop seeing her while looking for me everywhere. She leaves me way past when the time to go is gone, reluctantly. She tears me beyond pieces into asunder with the tears she cries. She tells me she will not settle and be consoled by stolen pleasures, stolen glances, and stolen touches. Because she forgot, life is but a few stolen moments. Thank you. It's kind of interesting now, doing poetry without my man Bill, you know? I hear my voice. The last poem I'm going to share with you is called In the City. I'm in Wayne County, and being a country boy, I moved over here in '72. And when I moved over here, I really had to make a mental, spiritual adjustment because I wasn't used to people being distant. I wasn't used to people not looking at you and not being able to depend on me. Because being from Wayne County, Williamson, East Williamson, South Sodus, all those areas, you just knew everybody and everybody knew who your family was and that you could depend on each other. But that wasn't the way I found the city. But I've been over here now since '72, and I'm more hopeful than when I first moved over here. This is called In the City. In the city, we don't look at one another, us neighbors in the city, us inner city neighbors thinking city life is shitty. We don't look at one another long enough to see past the cold drain stare, past the stiff-shouldered attitude adopted in defense. In the city, inner city, neighbors have been trained. Not much good usually comes from trying to teach the girls and young sons, insolent-looking young ones, a generation of dumb ones. Leave them be before you become one, an inner city casualty. In the city, inner cities, neighbors have been taught not to look at one another, not to speak to one another, not to smile at one another, piled one upon the other, not to work with one another, not to trust one another, not to treat one another like a sister or a brother, a father or a mother, not to listen to one another, not to heal one another, not to join with one another, not to feel one another, not to forgive one another, not to live for one another. Because when we do not fear one another and believe the liar is right, neighbors, children, women, and men, human again, will build nations from the rubble where inner cities have been. Thank you.
Just
When from out of the naked wood ascended a feathered torrent of untouchable speed, you exhaled and laughed. You were hypnotized by the slow circling of leaves battling the air for the privilege of falling to earth to rot. Something in that slow undressing of the land took your eyes hostage and must have stolen you down the dirt path away from traffic and suburban curbstone pavement, the layers of establishment that have accumulated over 1,000 ages of your childhood that will be worn back down in the unforeseeable future, away from the alley through which we cut and into the untroubled water, away from the concrete ledge painted by the automatists of angst, the autumn children whose anger drooled itself in colors over the stones and guardrails and daringly off the edge into sleeping water, which in summer was thick with the larvae of mosquitoes, flicking along in clusters under the mute surface, so many you could walk on their backs from one shore to the other, where you could now only sink and be eaten by the cold, which at this time of the day begins to close its numb fingers over everything.
Well.
So that was the warm-up, and this is the warm-down, I guess. I shouted Om Shanti Om into traffic. The traffic went by, unlistening. A strange man walked by, unshaven and frightened, in 1994 beaten plastic coat, the fibers pouring out of a torn seam in the back like clouds. If I'm not hallucinating, that's all there was or is. Clouds, October clouds like ragged polyester out of some childhood winter I had when the wind was brutal. Did I know him then? No matter, because for 1 second then the silence that hung in the air like a cold barrier laid across 10,000 miles of this town, freezing everything and burning down the trees slowly, that silence was ours.
Well.
Thanks.
Tell you a story about a girl I used to date when I went to high school in Brooklyn. Her name was Goldilocks. Friends called her Goldie. I called her Darling. She was a senior. I was a junior. She was one beautiful, smart babe. Let me tell you, getting A's and B's and really right up there. She also had a really, really good head for business. As a matter of fact, she was the chief drug dealer in the school. Anything you needed, she could get it for you. And then she branched out into the neighborhood, started going big time. Well, one day she decided she was having a little problem with her suppliers and a couple of buyers and even the man, so she figured she had to get out of town for a little while. And what to do? Thought about it a minute and then got together a big bag of Coke. Went down to the principal's office, said, "Hey, Principal Jones, here's some Coke. I gotta get out of town for a while. Want to get on one of those buses that take the city kids out to the country? Get away from the city for about 2 months or so." Principal made a call. Boom! Old Goldie out in the woods. First time, big city, tough girl from Brooklyn. She's out in the woods now, but she's enjoying it and likes the family she's with and all that. They're pretty cool, and she's kicking on, living out in the woods and laying on the ground and eating by the campfire. Then one day she decided she just had to smoke a J. She didn't want to get her family involved, so she took off down the path, found a nice tree, lit up, leaning against a tree, then just sitting down smoking her J. really, really enjoying the birds and the bees and all the scenery flying around. And she decides she's going to go for a little walk. So out she goes down the trail, she's walking along, smoking her J. Suddenly out from behind the tree jumps this big hairy guy. He looks at her, he looks at him, she looks at him, says, "What's your name?" The hairy guy says, "My name is Mr. Wolf, but my friends call me Wolfie. What's your name, little girl?" She says, "Goldilocks, but my friends call me Goldie. Would you like to hit my J?" "Yes," says Wolfie. They're talking, getting along really fine, having a good time. And old Wolfie says, "Hey, you didn't happen to see a little girl in a red hoodie running around, did you? That's my date for the evening, and I can't seem to find her." No. Goldie says, "No, we haven't seen her around anywhere." So Wolfie says, "All right, well, I'll go to her grandma's house. That's where I was supposed to meet her." He takes off. Goldie's going down the path, and pretty soon she realizes, "Damn, I'm lost." She's a tough chick from Brooklyn, so she can handle it. A couple minutes go by, and she realizes now she's hungry, too. Ooh, this is getting serious. What to do? Well, she goes over a hill, bumps into this house she sees over the hill, lights on. Whoa, all right, I'll go up there and see if I can use their phone and see if they give me any food. She bangs on the door. Nobody answers, nobody's home. Well, she looks around, goes around in the back, punches in the kitchen window, boom, jumps in the house. First thing she sees on the table, 3 pizzas, large, a medium, and a small. Food, scarfs it down, all set. Looks around for a cell phone, nothing. Goes upstairs, hits the bedroom. She's tired, jumps in the first bed, takes a nap. Now, this wasn't any old house, by the way. This was a special house. It belonged to the Bear family. And they were so stinky, smelly, and nasty that they were only allowed to go into town 1 day a month to get supplies. It's a bad family. Well, anyway, old Goldie's looking around the house. She comes in the living room. What does she find? Big leather couch. In front of the couch, widescreen TV. Old Goldie, she's sitting there, turns on the remote. Next thing you know, she's watching NASCAR. Full surround sound. Really, really nice. Really, really nice. Pretty soon the Bear people coming back home. Knocking it on, looking right away. Papa Bear knows something wrong, and he's getting all upset. Mama Bear looks in the back window and, whoa, little baby Bear is all shook up because his midnight stack pizza's gone. And they're running around, and all of a sudden little Bear hears NASCAR coming from the living room. Goes in, calls his mom on his papa, and they look at each other. And then they see Goldilocks it, they say, there's your new midnight snack. And the moral of the story is, if you're gonna break into somebody's bed, stay awake long enough to break back out. Thank you. Get off the way for music.
Hey guys.
Hey.
This is a poem I actually did here once before, and certain people who shall remain nameless, like Merle, begged me to do it again. It's a favorite of mine. I guess George Bernard Shaw said that some men see things as they are and wonder why. I see things or dream of things that never were, and say why not. So in that spirit, this poem is called "In the Court of the Fae." There is an ancient forest upon a silver lake. In moonlight bright and pale, deep within its shadowed veil, I made my great mistake. I rode beneath the forest's canopy, and the weight of mail and helm, its darkened path leading me toward a gate of living elm. Beyond the forest gate I spied eerie lights and swirling mist, glittering things on butterfly wings, their buddings moonlight kissed. Before the gate there stood a woman beyond compare. She was ethereal and dreamlike, cloaked in moonlight, with dewdrops jeweling her hair. "Greetings, traveler," she said. "I see you've journeyed far. Would you partake of wine and bread? We dance this night in pale moonlight, beneath sky and shining star." "Dear lady," I replied, "I must maintain my pace." Captured, I stared into emerald eyes, set within her elven face. "Won't you pause from your cause?" she inquired. "Your horse is weary. You look quite tired. Remove the armor from your breast, and presently take some rest from the call of honor and righting wrongs. We spend this night in pale moonlight, drinking wine and singing songs." So then, doing as she bade, oblivious to my fate, I removed helm, mail, and blade, and hung them on the forest gate. In final thought about my choice, I turned to my steed, shivering in the night. Then I heard her silver voice, "Your faithful companion can remain here, beyond the ring of light." And so I walked through evening damp, enchanted by an earthly grace. Beneath bough and fairy lamp was she who was queen of that unearthly place. We walked among the fragrant pines, beneath mighty oaks and tangled vines, through misty air where pixies flew, past moonflowers blossoming in gold and blue. We then came to a great hall, wondrous and from the mortal world aloof. Black gnarled columns with gold leaf capitals, bracing its night sky roof. At the head of the hall was a court and a king, cloaked in leaves of autumn red, a staff by his knees and skin like a tree's, a crown of nightshade upon his head. The lords of the court were cloaked in the forest, much as their king, seeming almost a set. Their ladies cloaked in moonlight, ethereal and dreamlike, very much like the first I had met. From his throne of living oak, the ancient forest king did rise. In the forest's voice he spoke, piercing me with his knowing eyes. "I see you've met my lovely bride. Matters press me now, but for a time herein you will abide. Be at your ease, dear friend, make yourself home in my domain. I am king here, these things I say. You shall be an honored guest while you remain, here in the court of the Fae." The king then turned, staff in hand, and walked off with a will. Seeming to meld with the land, he disappeared beneath the hill. At the center of the hall there stood great stones. "Come, we feast now," my lady then intoned, "at a table and chairs cut from the earth's very bones. With queen and court of a most unusual sort was I there then enthroned. Pixie servants flew to the table, bearing delightful things, swift and sure, surprisingly able, bearing it all on their butterfly wings. They set before us bread baked from wild grasses, and the sweetest of nectar served in bluebell glasses. A singing fairy hovered beside each chair, softly beating her wings. A second with a harp completed each pair, softly sweetly, plucking the strings. I sat there in a daze, beside my queen all the while, beneath each lord's piercing gaze, each lady's knowing smile, in the seat of honor like the greatest of kings, entranced by the forest and the beat of the wings. After our feast had been finished, the bread all gone and the wine diminished, the queen an open-handed gesture gave, and through the trees a hidden path revealed. It led to glass smooth water without a wave, laying beyond a moonlit flowering field. She then whispered in my ear, "A dance with you I now would take. Our ballroom lies there, down by the lake." And off we went to merriment, beside the crystal mirror. From the flowering meadow, the heavens were not what I remembered. The sky and stars were different somehow. Had the constellations been dismembered? The moon now had two separate sisters, or were they disconnected daughters? A triune of luminescence was now reflected from the waveless waters. Hundreds of pixies filled the air, their strange music filling the night. Stars and moons laying everything bare, bathing the world in purest light. With the queen I danced entwined in the strangest of palaces, sipping the fairy sweet wine from buttercup chalices, spinning and twirling, twisting together, breathing the air perfumed with pine and scented with heather. All through the night dancing and drinking, until the flowers about me seemed to grow taller. At this, I began thinking, was the world growing larger, or was I getting smaller? My mind clouded over into a haze, and the queen smiled as if at some secret joke. The flowers were smothering me in inscrutable maze. Then, as if from a dream, I suddenly woke. It was daylight, and I was again before the forest gate, but my charger was nowhere to be seen. I then realized how I had sealed my fate, how I fell beneath the spell of the wicked fairy queen. A pile of rust was all that remained of helm, mail, and blade. Through the forest portal, no trace of the world beyond the mortal, no sign that I had walked the fairy's mystic glade. A century had come and gone between the twilight and the dawn. All I had known and cherished from the world had long since perished. So I am forever after, regretting my mistake. Still I hear the silver laughter. Even now I hear it ringing. Still I hear the fairy voices. Even now I hear them singing. In an ancient forest, upon a silver lake. Thanks.